I know very well what my obligations are, what my duties are, not to rule with partisan advantage in mind. I have always been an independent judge, and I believe that that is one of the reasons why the president has honored me with this nomination.
This week, the Senate confirmed Ketanji Brown Jackson to serve on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit, an influential court that often leads a judge straight to the Supreme Court. She's one of 11 women of color Biden has nominated to be a judge, a feat Biden achieved in only 4 months, but notably took his predecessor 4 years. Moreover, Biden seems to be setting himself up to make good on a promise he made last year on the campaign trail.
If I'm elected president and have an opportunity to appoint someone to the courts, I'll appoint the first black woman to the courts. It's required that they have representation now. It's long overdue.
Joining me now is Ruth Marcus, deputy editorial page editor and columnist at The Washington Post. Also my colleague. Ruth, welcome. Welcome back to the Sunday Show.
Thanks for having me back.
OK, so we are talking about Ketanji Brown Jackson. And one of the reasons why we're talking about her was the subject of a column you wrote earlier this week with the headline, "I've urged Supreme Court justices to stick around, but never to retire until now." Right there on the screen is Justice Breyer. You write an entire column saying, I think it's time for him to retire. Why did you feel it's so important to go on the record to say this?
Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. That's the answer. Well, there's actually two answers. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg and the tragic example of the bet she made that Hillary Clinton would be elected president and that she would be able to retire and have her successor named by the first woman president. It didn't work out that way. The second reason is Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell not only obviously denied Merrick Garland, now the Attorney General, a seat on the Supreme Court or even a hearing about a seat on the Supreme Court, but rushed through Justice Barrett as Justice Ginsburg's replacement. But he had the thing that pushed me over the edge to writing this was really two things. First of all, Senator McConnell had an interview with our colleague Hugh Hewitt on his radio show.
Ruth, actually, we have some sound. Let's play it and then we'll pick it up on the other side.
Would the rule that you applied in 2016 to the Scalia vacancy apply in 2024 to any vacancy that occurred then?
Well, I think in the middle of a presidential election, if you have a Senate of the opposite party of the president, you have to go back to the 1880s to find the last time a vacancy was filled. So I think it's highly unlikely. In fact, no, I don't think either party, if it were different from the president, would confirm a Supreme Court nominee in the middle of an election.
I mean, Ruth, just to hear the actual words, it's maddening. But pick up what you were saying before we played that.
Well, that he's done before. What really set was what Senator McConnell went on to say, which was Hugh asked him, well, what about 2023 if there were 18 months left in a president? The 2023 term, and President Biden were to appoint a regular run-of-the-mill liberal justice. And Senator McConnell's comment wasn't, well, of course, we'd proceed as normally. He would say, well, we'll have to wait and see, which my translation of that was I'd have to count the votes to see if I could block somebody then as well. And so I understand that a piece of Justice Breyer's reticence about retiring is that he doesn't want to look, and more importantly, he doesn't want to make the court look like it's just another political player. But let's get serious. If he were to refrain from retiring, which I think is the more likely outcome at the end of this court term, at the end of the month or in early July, and he were to retire next year, how political would things look if a process launched with Republicans trying to block after the midterm, after the midterm elections? It could be just a mess for the court and a mess for the country.
Right. It could be a mess. I just say it's going to be a mess no matter what happens, simply because of the characters involved. In the minute that we have left, I want to talk about potential replacements. I mean, we're focused on Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. We do know, in terms of fulfilling the promise, 4 of the 179 appeals court judges are black women. Of the 800 federal district court judges, 35 are black women. Ketanji Brown Jackson was just confirmed to the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, which I said in the intro is sort of like puts you on the glide path to being a Supreme Court justice. Is it fair to say that Judge Brown Jackson is a front runner if and when a seat opens up on the court?
She is definitely a front runner, in addition to a really quite stellar resume and something that, as you point out, very few black women have, which is experience on the federal bench, or in fact on any bench. That was a bold promise that President Biden made. She is also, by the way, a former law clerk to Justice Stephen Breyer. So
yeah, that's right.
I suppose for weighing pluses and minuses, justices kind of get tickled when their law clerks make good.
I'm going to throw another name out there in terms of federal district court judges. Wilhelmina Wright for the District Court of Minnesota, just appointed in 2016 by President Obama. Just put that name in a back pocket somewhere.